Okay, looks like we are live here. So I'm just gonna make sure the stream's looking okay. And make sure our volume is right here. Turn that down a bit. So I'm starting a little bit late. It's been a crazy day, but here we are, and looks like the audio is good. Got both streams going, so here we are. Just pull up the Facebook on my phone here so I can see the comments while I'm working. Let's see. I just have to figure out how to do that. Having trouble seeing it on here. Let me just make sure it's Mark Art. I'm live now. And just bear with me for one moment here. There it is. Just bear with me for one moment here. Okay, just me repeating myself. There it is. That's so funny. All right, that's good. I'm going to turn that volume off. And so let's get going here. So yeah, I mean, if you are new to this, my name is Eben Schumacher, and I am an artist, and I have been doing these live stream digital painting demos here for the past couple weeks, and I've really been enjoying it, and I've had a lot of great feedback there, so welcome, and let's get started here. So if you are on Facebook, I will be able to see your comments, and I can't pull them both up at the same time, but I will check on YouTube every now and then as well, and make sure we're looking good there. So all right, today I'm going to focus on something that I was inspired to, something I've been inspired to do recently by a set of a brush set by Greg Rutkowski. He's an incredible artist. I believe he works at Wizards of the Coast. He does magic cards and that kind of thing. And if you're familiar with that at all, you'll know that magic card artwork is some of the greatest artwork out there today in this genre. So I downloaded one of his tutorials and got his brush set, and I've just been enjoying the hell out of it. And I can actually show you a little recent piece I've been working on, sneak preview here, that I've been using these brushes for. So as you can see, it's a little, I've just been getting a little loose with it, but I'm just loving the textural effect of these sort of oil paint like brushes, and I'm excuse me, I'm also mixing those with some more traditional refined methods, as you can see here, to create some contrast, these hard edges that are pretty common in the digital medium, but I think one thing that's definitely underappreciated among especially a lot of beginning digital artists is how much fun it is and how closely you can sort of emulate the traditional oil paint style using certain brushes and techniques here. So I'm going to go through a little bit of that today, and I'm going to try to get a full painting from start to finish done in about 2 hours here. So without further ado, let's get that going. So what do I want to do here? I think I'll do just I'll do 3000 by 2000 just so it fills the screen well, and set up my space here. Got the navigator on the right, got my color picker and my layers here. I don't need too much of that because part of what I'm going to be doing today is talking through. I had a question from someone who saw the stream last week, and I spent a long time like doing the sketch and like setting up the scene and using the lasso tool and selections to basically really carefully carve out these shapes for the painting. And then at a certain point, I kind of just went in and flattened everything and started going in with these like kind of loose oil mixing brush kind of techniques. And I had someone comment on that and ask something along the lines of like, how do you know you're not just going to mess everything up when you do that? And I said the short answer is I don't. But the more you get used to working in that style, which is essentially what traditional painters are working with, the more you just sort of gain a confidence for your ability to improve a piece as you work over it. And, you can always rework things by painting over them, but I think it's pretty easy with the digital medium to get sort of caught up in the ability to edit and undo and create different layers, and it can kind of tighten things up a bit. So working with this kind of technique is a great way to loosen things up. Let's go back to this painting here. Let's look at an earlier version. I actually sat on this rough draft for a long time and could not really figure out how to proceed. And I think part of that was, so you can see the difference here. Part of that was I spent a lot of time really carefully designing this thing and getting these shapes right, and I really liked the way it is, and I had things all, you can't see it here, but I had them separated out on different layers, and I had these crisp, clean edges, and I just, I had trouble getting back into it, and I didn't really know how to proceed, and I think what I eventually decided was like I just had to go for it and move forward and just start painting and just going over things, and I had to remind myself that nothing here is sacred, and you can always improve it. Like, you have to trust yourself that you're going to be able to improve this piece, and that's part of the mindset that you'll want going into this kind of technique. So it's totally up to you what style you prefer. I mean, personally, I'm definitely attracted to this second iteration. And looking back and forth, I can see maybe I've lost some of the clarity of my shapes, especially around here. But overall, I think it's so much more lively. It's so much more interesting. It has a lot more emotion and character and mood to it. And it's just a bit more fun to look at. So these are like two examples of the same piece done in very different styles. And so yeah, let's get back to this painting we're going to be working on here. So let me just set up this tablet here so don't have wires everywhere. Wires are the bane of my existence. Okay, here we go. This is good. So I'm just going to create a new layer so I'm not working on the background. But other than that, this is all going to be one layer here. And this is a great method for doing studies. If you want to get used to this method, start with a study. I've been doing a lot of those. And, it's get used to the style and the brushes. If you have these brushes, if you don't, I strongly recommend getting them. You can find these on, I believe he has them on his Gumroad as well as on ArtStation. I got them off of ArtStation along with a little tutorial about his traditional style. So these are purchased brushes. I think it cost about, actually no, they came with a tutorial, but I think you can purchase them separately for like $6. Highly recommend it. These are not my own brushes. I will be probably combining those a bit with some other more traditional style methods that I have already, but I'm going to be working with these a lot because I just have so much fun with them. All right, so here we go. And I've given them my own names, by the way. These are not his his names. This is my favorite by far, and after a minute you'll probably see why. This is just magnificent. There's no transparency whatsoever. It's completely opaque, but there's a lot of color variation just right off the bat. A lot of texture, and it actually performs pretty well on a large scale compared to other like highly textured complex Photoshop brushes like this, especially those with the mixer tool. So this is just so much fun. It's got this really nice detailed jagged edge. It has this kind of loose tapering effect that occurs. It's not totally consistent, but at this scale it does look a bit digital, but once you start getting into it and like really working this way, and it just feels so nice to put it down, and that's ultimately how I'm judging a lot of these, is just by the feel. And you want your artwork to feel good. Whoops, I didn't want to put that there. So another thing I like to do with this, and what I like to do generally, is keep the color picker pretty close to hand, and just use small variations in hue and saturation and value. So it's you might find if you start to work with stuff like this, it's a bit hard to, there are other ways you can start this out, obviously, but basically what I love about this is you can't blend, and it just sort of forces you to be super deliberate about your color choices and your strokes. And that's a big part of working with traditional paints, because you have no choice. But also, when you're working digitally, you do want to be paying attention to your strokes. So I'm not seeing anything in this quite yet. So I'm gonna keep pushing forward. I'm gonna make some subtle shifts in the hue and the saturation, and I'm gonna keep looking at my navigator to see if I can pick anything out. See if anything here is really striking me as an object or a scene of any kind. I'm going to be doing a landscape here, but this is also a great method for any kind of work, if it's portraits or anything like that. Okay, I think I'm starting to see where this is going. I think I would like to have some kind of, I would like this to be sort of outlandish and kind of, oh yeah, that's good. And a bit, starting to look like they're, just by the colors, I'm starting to see kind of a sunset vibe. And already, basically what I've set up here, not deliberately, but I'm looking at these color choices, and it's very cool overall. And that just happened to be the color I started out with. But I don't think I want to. So with that in mind, I'm thinking about my focal point over here, and definitely talk a lot about focal points, but it's very important to become acquainted with that kind of idea. I want to have there be just a little splash of warm color here, and I'm starting to think there's like sort of a mountain range over here. That's a bit too dark, isn't it? Sometimes the one caveat with this this variety in the brush color is sometimes it's a little inaccurate with, or you have to be careful what kind of color you're picking here. But it's overall it's pretty consistent and easy to work with. So I'm just gonna, whoops, see, there it is. I picked the wrong color. I'm just gonna kind of go across really quick and establish some light over here. There's gonna be some yellows and some greens in there. If you've seen any of my other stuff here, a big thing that I'm trying to do at this point is just establish color variety overall. So I'm trying to I'm not too concerned with how it's not too concerned with realism at this point, I guess, but I do want there to be some interesting colors, and that's because over time they tend to get a bit diluted, and so I want to start strong with those. I'm just kind of seeing where things go here. It looks like there's a section of this that's illuminated, but the rest is kind of cast in shadow. Even the sky, which I think is kind of interesting. I'm gonna cue in some illuminated clouds here, but otherwise these are kind of lit with this ambient greenish light. Yeah, this is an interesting mood. Flipping the canvas here, and yeah, I don't know if any of this is gonna work. I mean, it's not. This isn't kind of like an Earth. This is kind of an alien lighting scheme here. These are not the kind of tones you would get on an Earth sunset. But I'm just kind of proceeding anyway because I want to explore this, see where it goes. Oh yeah, that's interesting. Kind of a greenish. Yeah, so I'm almost thinking there's going to be kind of a greenish haze to this land. So on Earth, distant objects would tend to be sort of bluish, and here it's looking like they are more green, almost like this is kind of like a toxic planet. So I'm just going around, just putting down some color. I just want to fill up the canvas. Check here, making sure my stream is still going. Whoops, that's not where, I don't even know where that came from. All right. Cool. It's still rolling. So yeah, I'm just setting up some perspective lines here too. Stealing some colors. I'm actually going to deepen that green. I want to, oh yeah, I'm going to inject some greenish tones here. And I mean, this brush is just so great for blocking stuff out. It's just so bold. And, you know, at least for the time being, I don't see like much of a reason to switch it up too much, you know. It's just working out pretty well. And I'm kind of, again, skewing this perspective. So like things I'm looking down on, I am really looking down on them, and things that I'm looking up at, I'm really looking up at them. That's part of this strategy with this exaggerated perspective here. Oh yeah, there's some darker blues I want to have maybe in the sky back here. It's almost nighttime, but there's just kind of the last glimmer of some kind of sun going on here. Oh yeah, this is interesting. Usually not quite. And then maybe, I don't know, maybe I want to have some kind of interesting object here. Or maybe I just want to, I mean, you know, I like to put like a fortress of some kind in a lot of these. But you don't have to. You can just make mountains. I might just do that. I want to maybe make some interesting mountain formations here. Maybe with some exaggerated warm greens here. I don't know. Just experimenting. Seeing how this all works together. Actually, there's a little digital trick here. I'm gonna swap in for a minute. I'm just gonna move this over a little bit so it fits my composition better. And then you can just keep working. No need to smooth it out or anything at this point. It's just oh yeah. Get some weird green foggy stuff happening here. I don't really know what's going on. Actually, I want to keep that there. I want to keep that contrast around that focal point, but otherwise we're just going to let this weird green sky kind of do its thing. And yeah, just going to keep going with this perspective. This is pretty strange. Maybe I'll make a little character here. I actually had this idea when I started this. I wanted to make some kind of orc or something, you know, like an alien creature that would inhabit this planet. So I'm just going to give them some broad shoulders and big old dangling arms. Yeah, this is an interesting color scheme. Excuse me. Here I'm gonna dip into the. Actually, no. Let's keep it. Well, no. I guess I'll use a little bit of this. I'm just gonna use another little digital trick here, and I have to merge these layers. Come on. There it is. Whoops. One too many. All right. Just going to turn on this red linear dodge effect. That'll just help to tie this together a bit. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. So at least it looks a little bit more believable this way. And it doesn't even have to, it doesn't even have to be a sunset, oh my God, I'm actually starting to see this can be almost like a giant underground thing. So let's I don't know. Let's bring in this as a Marco Bucci brush. I love this one. Bring in this rake brush. Start seeing if we can maybe make this sort of cave-like by just creating, these lines are going to help reinforce the form that I'm setting up. I think, yeah, this is just going to be like the entrance to a tunnel. And that is so cool. This is not an idea I've had before, so this is exciting. And that's another really great, liberating thing about working with this in this way is you don't know what you're gonna make. You're just putting color down and seeing what happens. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep working on this cave entrance. And now I'm starting to think of the story behind this, whatever's going on here. You know, it's just this lighting in itself is really setting up a big payoff as far as the narrative. I'm going to switch to another brush that will let me make some more decisive lines. Yeah, that's good. That'll help me establish some of these long horizontal plane shapes, but also sometimes it's hard to speak and work at the same time. Also, it's going to help me cue in a bit more detail here. I don't want to go too overboard with it at this point because we're still working pretty loose, and I don't want to see that line's a bit too much. I don't want to get too specific yet. But now I have a better idea of what it is I'm making. And I'm taking that linear dodge effect that I created with the sort of the red around the edges, and I'm actually just physically painting that in, or reinforcing that with the paint. So it almost, the colors I'm putting down kind of make it look like the light is blooming around this area. I'm just gonna create some. Let's switch to another of these here. Create some big, more transparent strokes with the lighting. Make it kind of look like it's being cast out. Flip it. Oh yeah, that's looking good. I'm just gonna use this. This is a nice little effect you can do when something is brightly lit. The shadows in that area tend to take on sort of a more saturated variation of that color. So I'm using this bright orange. I might even brighten that up a bit to create shadows along the cave wall. Maybe I don't want it to be so explicitly cave-like, but I do want it to be some kind of opening. I'm just gonna create some, I don't know, some interesting shadow lines here, just for the, I don't know, sometimes it's you just gotta break things up, and you just gotta get loose with it, and that's what's so great about this method is you just stay really loose the whole time. That's a bit too bright. Yeah, I really want to establish the horizontalness of this area. This is also probably too bright. Darken it down. Add a little yellow for variation. This is all kind of a mess, isn't it? So I'm just, yeah, I think I just got a bit too involved over here, so I'm just going to kind of go in with some more grayish variations of this color, which will, you know, when you shift to gray from a cool color, it's going to make it look warmer. Yeah, I like this. There's almost like a sort of a tornado effect happening here. I just want to reinforce that. With some of these darker shadows. It's just a nice compositional effect, you know, just the kind of swirling area. Notice I'm not blending anything here yet. I might go in later and do some of that, but for now I want to keep a lot of this texture intact. I don't know about that. A little too much contrast there. Backtrack. Of course, if you were really working with traditional oils, you would not be able to do that, but again, we are painting digitally, and there's no reason to completely avoid using those tools. I'm going to use one of them here. This is the lasso. I'm just going to use this to select this sort of foreground area, invert that, and then I'm going to use a big soft round brush here. Add in some misty effects. I don't want to use that color though, do I? Something bluish greenish, just to help this foreground pop a bit. And I'm going to do it back here too, just to, it'll be a little more neutral over here because it's being illuminated by that warm light, so it's going to push it closer to the gray. But probably the only, well, maybe not the only time you would use a straight gray for an atmospheric effect, but certainly you don't get that kind of opportunity often, and that's kind of the thing here is actually I'm going to use this to blend in some of these areas a bit too. What was I going to say? Can't remember. Oh yeah, you know, you should use grays. Grays are awesome. Grays can be very colorful, in fact, in the right context. And I'm going to go ahead and use the same effect here to separate out this foreground even more. And this character, I'm just kind of keeping him as a silhouette here. Maybe I'll select that area in his arm as well, just for consistency. Hey, stop. Sometimes you gotta beat the machine. Oh, right. What am I doing wrong here? I'm trying to actually subtract there it is, Alt. I'm trying to subtract part of this selection. There we go. And then invert that. Maybe let's push this a bit more towards the blues, so push up the brightness a bit so it really stands out here. This is kind of interesting. And this part is getting a lot of attention now that I've kind of blurred out some of those other areas, so I'm just going to go back in and soften that. And likewise, I'm going to maybe switch to that linear dodge again and try to reinforce some of this light. So yeah, sort of alternating a bit between traditional and digital methods here, but again, you know, I'm still just working on one layer here, so it's you know, I am constantly moving forward with this piece. You know, there's no point to revert to. I have no layers. It's just I have to I just have to make this work somehow. And I think it's a great incentive somehow, or sometimes, you know, it's just make it happen. And I'm just adding some little rock shape kind of things here. I don't know what they are yet, but they're just details around that focal point. Maybe, you know, maybe they're floating or something like that. Maybe I can sort of create a convincing. Maybe all of these objects can be rocks, just floating around in this weird alien universe. I want to select, you know, colors that are going to be appropriate for the position they're in relative to that light. Yeah, this is kind of a this is turning out to be a very alien concept. I'm going to make some bigger shapes here. I'm just going to keep an eye on my navigator though while I'm doing that, so I can make sure they're working for the whole composition. I think having that big shape around the corner is a bit contrived. Kind of makes it look like I'm trying to block it off, but I think the shapes there are pretty good already. Take this, bring up the brightness just a bit. Use some of these. This is going to be sort of more illuminated, and then the ones closer to this area, they're going to be smaller and closer to that red. Still going to have dimension, but they are affected by that light. Maybe I'll include some of that on these rock shapes to kind of tie it in a bit. Not quite that much, but yeah, that's sort of interesting. Looks like these meteors floating around. You're not going to see a lot of that light actually from this angle, so I'm going to dial that back a bit. Just the very edges. All right, how does this thing look from a distance? This whole area is sort of, I would call that a big mess. So I'm just gonna, well, let's try another little oil technique here. I'm gonna use, I have my mixer brush hotkeyed to A. So let's see if we can blend some of this stuff out. Oh, another thing I want to do before I forget, I just want to create these kind of misty shadow effects here on these floating objects. Just make it look like they're really reflecting that light source, and they are actually casting a shadow in the fog there. I don't know how effective that is right now, but I can always come back to that. And I've also, you know, I've really kind of taken away a lot of my texture, and I'm not crazy about that, but you know, we can always go back and go over it again. So I'm just gonna actually try to reinforce that effect with some more deliberate brush strokes here. And you'll notice with this this technique, it's not so important to paint everything out super explicitly. A lot of this stuff can survive as just the vaguest suggestion of what it is, and you know, the rest will kind of just follow. So let's get back to what I was doing with that mixer brush here. I don't want to take away too much of the detail, but I do. This is a good way to, I mean, A, to like lose some of your edges, because you don't want all your edges to be super hard and refined. B, this is a great opportunity to create some sort of cloud shapes. I'm just gonna flip this so I'm fresh. But this is I mean, I love creating atmosphere, and this is just starting to look like a super atmospheric piece. So I'm kind of almost creating some, and that's also because I want to make this look very vast. I can also use this as almost a motion effect, you know, it's like almost blurring out from the center there. I don't want to overdo it, because again, I don't want to destroy all my textures here, but oh, hi Leora, nice to see you there. Yeah, so oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I'm going around with this mixer brush and seeing what kind of interesting effects I can create. I want to keep things pretty sharp around this focal point, but I can contrast that with let me change the brush head here. Something a bit more. Let's try that. No, I want something that's a bit more. Oh, interesting. It almost looks as if my brush settings are out of whack. This is occasionally something you'll have to deal with. Let's just leave off the shape dynamics for now, and just keep things consistent. This is a bit too strong. I want to reduce the load a bit. I just want to be sort of subtly mixing. Actually, what do I want? I'm still not like I don't know everything there is to know about these mixer brush settings, but I know enough to get by, I guess. Oh boy, something's happening. There they go. I'm kind of noticed like these shapes up here are not quite working for me. They're a bit too almost sequential, like they just look a bit too contrived. So I'm going to see if I can break that up a bit. Just mess with these shapes so they're not totally consistent. Maybe have one kind of, I don't know, where's another place we could put one of these. How about up in this corner here, just have big old something floating. Oh, there goes my phone. Just kind of having this light sort of launch out from this place here. And you know, it's a close enough impression for now. And what else can we do here? I just want to add some more specific details at this point. Put some shadows on these rocks. So it's definitely come a long way from where I started. But I like it. Kind of partially obscure some of these objects in the fog. It's just kind of a fun effect. Whoa. I don't want to get rid of all the texture here. But maybe around the edges, I do want to kind of lose things a bit. You don't want all your edges to be super hard and defined, and it helps to give the piece a bit more motion. I'm kind of reserving a lot of my my hard textured areas for this region. Yeah, this is kind of this is pretty cool. Just gonna create some kind of landscapey shadow things here. Yeah, this is interesting. Oh yeah, there's that shadow I'm looking for. It's pretty cool. Interesting. Put this out a bit. And I'm going to go in here and sort of refine this area, figure out what's going on. I want a bit more clarity about what these things are. Not getting the right color here. Let's try this one. There it is. Again, I'm kind of artificially, well, not artificially, I'm manually almost creating this light bloom effect with some of my strokes here. So let's find out what's going on with these floaty shapes here. I just want to make them a bit more interesting in terms of their design and their shapes. So let's bring up a different brush here. This is interesting. A bit more hard edges. Yeah. So as these objects move towards the light source, they're going to get a little bit brighter and a little bit more towards that saturated orange or red. It's sort of hard to create that effect by hand. Again, the linear dodge brush is a great way to save yourself some time there. But let's make these into something a little more specific. I don't know what. Just gonna incorporate some shading there. It's gonna be sort of floaties, and I want to make sure that the edge of that cave stays sort of crisp. Make some more silhouettes here. Sort of give the impression that this is partially obscured. All kinds of fun details that can happen here. jutting rock every now and then. Well, that's kind of fun. Maybe I can do that with the top here too. Just have some little bits sticking out. It's kind of cool. It's pretty spacey. Pretty alien. We don't really know exactly what's going on here, but it's an impression of something. And yeah, I'm just gonna create some more cast lighting here. I want this to sort of cascade out from that opening. And some of this is green, so we're gonna make it a bit more neutral. Or at least push it towards the... It's sort of hard to get that balance right. We want it just to be a warmer, slightly warmer neutral green. It's a color wheel thing, you know, if... well, I'm not going to try to explain it here, but... pretty much what I've said already, you know, it's just a matter of... you know, red and green are opposites, so if you want to... basically the transition between red and green is going to be sort of a gray-brown, and variations of that. Whereas, you know, the transition between a red and a blue will be violet, you know. Oh yeah, I think I found the color. I just want this nice warm green to at least just kind of peek up over the edge there. Oops, I need to do that. And maybe you'll make some more of those little objects. Mountains or whatever. These are a bit too... There's not much texture in these, so I'm gonna go back to the big thick, as I like to call it. It's just a lot more interesting. Incorporate some of this purple. I don't even know. I just love the way that purple looks against the red, so I'm gonna use it. Yeah, this is turning into quite the scene. I'm gonna go back in with the mixer brush up here and soften out some of these textures that aren't super relevant to the focal point. I don't want to do that. What do I want to do? Let's grab that soft brush again. See if we can create some interesting shadows here. I can find the right color. That's not it. That's not quite as crisp as I would like it to be, so I'm gonna try this effect. There, that's kind of cool. Let's do that a few more times. Really make this look convincing. I just want to create some subtle cast shadows from these giant mysterious space objects. Doesn't have to be totally accurate, by the way. It's just sort of a suggestion. Cool. That's looking kind of neat. I'm just gonna create a bit more atmosphere around there. Just make it look a bit more cloudy. These lines are a bit hard. Let's use this brush effect again. Maybe not like that. Actually, maybe I'll just leave it like that. I don't know. Try some of this. I just want to create a good balance of hard and soft edges here. And I think these are just a bit too dark for what they are. You know, I want them to look a little farther away. And, you know, the farther away something is, the less contrast there will be. All right. I think I've been spending a lot of time working on that one spot, so let's switch it up. Let's incorporate some of this this blending into some other areas of the painting. Oh, I like that. That's pretty fun. Check that out. Just kind of chop that up a bit so it's not going too close to the edge, but that's a nice little bit of lighting there. So what I've established is that, like, we are in some kind of interior place, but there are things growing here, you know. And apparently the only space is that one hole where the light's coming in, and there are these floating rocks. That's all I know. And then there's this character, this guy. I don't know what his deal is, but we're gonna find out pretty soon. Oops. Wow, that's intense. Just want to create some stuff, some green things. I want to make sure the color is consistent among these various surfaces. Makes it look like more of a cohesive world if there are things growing on the rocks as well. I don't know about that. Push that towards the gray a bit. Oh, not the gray. What am I thinking? Just want to get the right color for this highlight here. Not a highlight, but just an indication that light is hitting this area. Yeah, that's pretty close. I want to do a bit of that here too. Like, just give the impression that there's some rocks or other physical objects behind these this massive fog. You know, you don't have to draw them all out, but it's just, you know, you're just kind of creating the impression. I don't know if I like that. What else do I want to do here? I like I said, I've been focusing on the area too much, and again, I'm not really sure about all these little bits here that I just put in. So I'm gonna bring back in my mixer brush and turn on shape dynamics again. I think I'm seeing these Greg Rutkowski brushes also can be used as mixer brushes, and I think that's what I've been accidentally doing at various points here. Not that that's a bad thing, but when you're not meaning to, it can be a bit surprising. All right, let's continue with some of that smoothing here. And I don't want this mix to be, I want the mix to be high. That's right. So I'm just smoothing things out, and that kind of makes it look a bit more realistic, I guess, than these sort of choppy strokes I've been putting down. But I'm getting pretty lost in this one. This is a lot of fun. Just gonna increase the load a bit here. You don't want to necessarily try to draw out a lot of details with this brush, but it's really good for just shaking up that texture. And oh, I just thought of something here. Oh, that's so cool. All right. Oh, hey there, Nick. Yes, you know what? I'm gonna give this guy a staff because it is impossible not to do so. The characters must be staffed. Yeah, he's kind of like a, I'm not sure what he is. Some kind of space gorilla. So maybe you can have some. What am I doing here? Focus up. You can have some kind of big staff with like a head on it or something. All right. I just kind of saw this in the shapes, and I had this idea to create this sort of rift in the earth here. I'm just going to use a lot of these big downward stroke kind of things, and those are gonna help to sell the verticality a bit. You know what I should have done there? Let's go back to that, reverse the selection, and then I'm going to use the opposite selection to create some more land-like shapes. Give it a bit more contrast. Yeah. Okay. And then here, what do I want to do here? Guess I'll do kind of the same thing. Use some of these, more of these shadow blues. These are just cool, or greens. These are cool greens. More of a shadow shape or a shadow tone. See how that? I don't know. That's kind of a mess, though, isn't it? So I just want to make this a bit clearer, I suppose. So I'm not gonna. I mean, this brush is already a bit intense, so I'm not gonna try to create too much variation or detail there. I'm actually gonna go back in with this mixer brush, because now that I've done a lot of blending in other areas, it's kind of it's almost being demanded by some of these sections, you know. So, or else it kind of stands out. All right, let's take this section. This is always kind of fun. Create these little ravines. I want to create some kind of crazy blue light to contrast with that fiery red over there. So I'm gonna take. Photoshop is freaking out. I'm gonna take another soft round brush. There's gonna be some kind of interesting blue light source here at the bottom of this ravine. We don't know what exactly, but it'll be cool. Trust me. That didn't really blend well, did it? That's close enough. Cool. And then use that same effect here. Whoops. Sure. Yeah, why not? Just create this fogginess down here. Maybe even hike up the brightness a bit in some key areas. And yeah, that's kind of cool. This is turning out to be such a interesting, dynamic world. I had no idea what I was getting into here. Oh, thank you, Nick. Glad to see you joining me here. Yeah, this is pretty cool. I mean, again, you know, what I was saying before you showed up is this is this method here. I'm doing kind of more of a traditional style. I'm working all in one layer here, and I'm using a lot of oil paint style brushes. And big benefit of that is there's just a lot of creative opportunity, you know, when you just kind of go in with these almost random strokes and colors, and you never know what's going to happen here. Whereas if you know, with a lot of other pieces, you might spend more time kind of sort of setting yourself up for a specific design, and then, you know, you can get kind of inflexible with it, is what I find. So just remaining open like this, I had no idea I was going to create any of this when I started, but here we are. And it's pretty cool. I could not have thought of this if I tried. But the painting process just sort of helped me to find it. All right, I'm gonna sort of make more indications of this ravine going over there. Maybe I'm gonna dial back that blue a bit, just in terms of saturation. I want that to be a bit more just a little less attention grabby. I don't know. Just kind of creating some random details in this ravine and trying to just imagine myself there. Trying to imagine what it would be like to stand at the edge like this guy's doing. Yeah, this is great. Lots of fun. Just gonna have these sort of disappear over the edge there. And why not, let's go back to that mixer brush here and let's just do some real subtle cloud things happening here. Maybe even kind of steaming out over the edge. I know that's kind of bold, but I think it's kind of cool. Just sort of billowy geyser type things. Oops. Yeah, this is pretty interesting. I have one here. I'll have one here that's kind of catching the light a bit. So it'll turn a bit paler towards the top. I don't know about that one, but it's there. There's no turning back. I don't know if that reads well, actually. When I said there was no turning back just now, that was a lie. I'm going to turn back. Just to about here. I think that's a good little phase. I'm going to keep queuing in these more specific details. This ravine is serving the purpose of a view path. Usually I will use a literal pathway for this, but this does the trick too. It's just taking us from the character through this area all the way to the focal point over there. Let's try something here. I'm not like totally vibing with this section, so I'm gonna kind of fade out some of that detail with a little atmosphere here. There we go. It's a bit better. It's just more of a suggestion now of what's there, and a lot can be said without saying exactly what's going on. Yeah, this is pretty wild. I'm having a lot of fun with this. All right, back to some more detailing. I'm going to try to finish this up in the next half hour or so. But the good news is, I mean, a lot of this is done. It's just a matter of getting the right fine-tunements, and then I'm going to go to that character, and I usually do the character last just to have some fun with it, but you don't have to do that. Oh yeah, this is kind of cool. I'm just using just some sharp lines to define this area here. That's that just helps it stick out a bit. This is kind of like a secondary focal point, I would call. These shapes need some variation though, because it's a section of detail amidst lost edges, and I'm kind of creating a lot of this texture and interest around this point. Wow, this is this is so fun. Gotta have fun while you're painting. There's no point in doing it otherwise. In my humble opinion. Yeah, just creating some variation along those edges there. Well, I'm planning on finishing this, and that will actually be the second painting I've finished today, so that's a good day. It's a good day. I'm usually lucky if I get one, but I've been doing a lot more of this stuff, trying to spend more time actually painting and less time, marketing and all the other business stuff that goes with being a self-employed artist. Yeah, I'm just loving the effect with this brush and how well it contrasts with the blended areas I've set up. I'm creating some perspective lines here. That's really all I'm doing. And but I'm just kind of doing them loosely, so it just kind of follows the landscape. Oh, yes, a little rim lighting on the figure. That I think you're right about that. That is a good idea. I will take that into consideration along with the staff. Lots of good ideas coming from Nick tonight. Oh yeah, this is cool. This is so cool. This is almost forming a cliff or a ledge over here. I don't know. This landscape is pretty much just making itself at this point. I'm not coming up with any of these ideas. I'm just seeing them in the piece. I'm not trying to be modest or humble. That's just the truth of it. And I think this piece is just giving me a lot of great ideas. All right, let's go in with that this mixer brush again and just sort of touch off some of these edges here. Blend things in a little bit, not too much, but enough to create some interest and some contrast here. And some more of that foggy stuff that I love so much. God, I love fog. It's so much fun to paint, and it's like it does twice the work for you, because it looks cool, but then it also creates lost edges, which means you don't have to paint anything there, really. You just get to smooth it all out and pretend there's nothing there. And it's just a great way to live. Give this overhead rock some definition. Somehow. Doesn't need that much. Maybe some blues here and there. Just gonna create some variation. And yeah, that's looking pretty bad, isn't it? Okay, let's try something else. Let's try just kind of misting this whole thing out. Let's do the blending technique. The lazy man's painting. It's just laziness. That's the only reason I'm doing this. Oh yeah. That's pretty dang cool. That might have been overkill, but you know, you get the idea. I want to almost make it look like this fog is like gravity is affecting it, like it's being sucked down into this area. Almost like water. Maybe try to do the same thing here. I don't know. Pretty dang interesting. Whatever it is, it's very alien. And there's almost like this luminance coming from some of these areas. Maybe that was too much. Flip it. Well, flip it again. I'm not getting a very good read on this area here. I think it's looking a bit confusing, so I'm just gonna create some stuff around here, tighten up some of these edges. Welcome, Jose. Nice to see you here again. Starting to have some regulars. That's great. You guys always have some really great input. Nick's already given me some sweet ideas for this one. And yeah, feel free to ask any questions or offer any suggestions as I move through this. Yeah, if you missed the first half, or the first part of it, that's kind of extreme, isn't it? That's you know, the video will be posted on Facebook and YouTube, so you can always check it out later. It's just too much dark near the edge. It's not gonna work. Just gonna more smoothing. Love smoothing. Yeah, so I mean, you'll see throughout, I've just created this fun dynamic between these sketchy strokes and this soft edge here. I'll use the smudge tool a bit here to help me establish the verticality of these areas. And some of that fog. The smudge works, definitely works differently than the mixer. The Smudge is I mean, depending upon the settings you use, it's just a bit more direct. It doesn't blend quite as well as it does push things around. So it's good to keep in mind. But it's great for making like little, I don't know, like little divot-y things and kind of pulling things out, like pulling edges out away into this nice tapered point. You can even make little details with it if you want, like I'm doing here. And I'm thinking there needs to be just another bit of foreground here, or midground, that just kind of helps to round this shape out a bit. Give it a bit more perspective. Yeah, I think that'll look good. Give it a little coolness. Keep that color variety going. And then we'll just take this with the mixer brush and just pull it right down. This detail doesn't need to be super involved. It's just sort of another thing that's happening near the foreground. It's not super important, but it's nice to just give it a little texture, give it some deliberate lines here and there. And yeah, go in with this some more of these lines. Oh yeah, just real loose with it. Nothing too crazy. Let's take this color here. It'll be useful down here. Some little ledges. I don't know. Maybe not. It's a little distracting. Let's go in with that smoother. Just what do I want to do about this? I want to add some deeper shadows under here. Let's give it a bit less of a mix. Just really, yeah, create some shading here. I'm gonna even pull that back even more. Give that a little bit of that over here. We can use that to create some just subtle indications of form down here. All right, so it looks like we got most of our main components here. Let's move on to the foreground and let's try to wrap this thing up. Just gonna check the comments here. Oh, welcome, Sean, and I'm glad you saw the dragon post. Yeah, I've been trying to do some more advertising, and I'm glad that it's a welcome relief from the usual sponsored posts. Yeah, believe it or not, some of those are just some artists trying to get the word out. I've seen some other sponsored posts from fellow artists. You've probably seen the Aaron Blaze one around if you follow a lot of art stuff. He's really great. He's offering one of his courses for like $1 right now. I'm not even sure if that's still going on, but I bought that right away, and I actually ended up buying another one of his courses after that. I haven't gotten into either of them yet, but I can't wait. I love his work, and I've seen some of his stuff so far, so he's a good teacher too. So, all right, let's talk about what's happening with this guy here. I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit, and let's give him some qualities. He's kind of purplish right now. Let's give him some shadowing. And I would like it if he's kind of... We're gonna do the staff thing for sure, but we're gonna shake it up. He's not gonna be like much of a human being, more of an alien orc kind of thing. And I'm just keeping this super loose. I just want to keep it loose until I decide I want to change that, because these textures may not look like much right now, but they're going to help us out later when we add in more detail. They're just going to make it look, when you create a bunch of texture like this, like look at all this, and then you add on some explicit detail over it, it creates this effect where it almost looks like the whole character is carefully detailed and rendered. And you see this with a lot of really great artists. You know, you like next time you're looking at a piece of work from your favorite artist, check out the edges, or like the places that you're not supposed to look at. I see it a lot with character work where like it'll just be like this beautifully rendered, like meticulously detailed thing, and then you look down at its feet and it's just like a bunch of loose paint strokes, and you don't notice it when you first look at it, but then you realize, like, you know, 50 to 70% of this painting is still is pretty loosely defined. All it takes is a little area like this to give the whole piece a lot more a more convincing detailed effect. So what am I doing here? Give him some legs. Guess you could use those. I've actually been doing a lot of figure drawing practice recently, so hopefully that will come in handy here. I've been trying to do that as my half-hour practice every day, because figures have been traditionally sort of my weak point. So and that's really, I think, one of the best ways to get better as an artist is to just you figure out those weak points and just dive right at them, you know. Let's switch to a bit more of a specific brush for these details. I want to create impression of a hand. Not a hand, but the impression. And I want to really reinforce this sort of, he's got a bit of an S curve going on with this pose. And that's a pretty natural way for someone to stand, I think. He's kind of looking a bit more like a space warrior. Maybe that's what'll happen with him. We don't know. And God, this is this is where things get a little risky. I want to give him this big old staff, but it's just cutting right across all my other things here. And yeah, I could make a new layer, but where's the fun in that? Just trying. I mean, the point of this exercise is to just invest yourself in every stroke and sort of not look back once you've put it down. If you missed the beginning of this, these brushes, these are from Greg Rutkowski. He, you may have heard of him. I he's like my new favorite artist right now. I mean, I knew about his stuff for a while, but I just had never spent too much time looking at it. I believe he currently works at Wizards of the Coast. He makes artwork for Magic the Gathering and that kind of stuff, and he's just incredible. And this is the brushes I'm using for a lot of this are from his brush pack, which I got on ArtStation. You can get it as well. Just look for Greg Rutkowski. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I think it's RUTKOWSKI. And great stuff. I downloaded one of his tutorials, and I got these brushes with it. You can also just download the brushes separately, but they're so much fun. I'm having trouble creating. Let's flip it. Okay. I think I know what I gotta do here. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can also, it's also starting to look like I'm sort of viewing him from above, so I can reinforce that effect to give this piece more of a dynamic feel. Because the perspective is already pretty exaggerated, you know? All right, let's try something that's a little more sketchy. You know, now we're getting into some of the details, so okay. I can't forget to drink water. All right, here we go. Let's give this shoulder a bit more definition. I'm just gonna get real sharp with it now. Create some more specific details. That's a bit too. That's not working, is it? You know, I don't even know if I don't know how specific I want to get with this. I'm like pretty pleased with how it looks just as it is, to be honest. But I'm gonna humor myself here and get a bit more specific. Oh yeah, and what was it? Nick, I think, was talking about doing a little highlight. Let's see if that works. I'm just gonna kind of map out the head a bit more first. Create some shadow lines. At this point, it's not really clear whether he's... I guess it kind of looks like he has armor. It almost looked for a bit there that like it was just some muscly dude. I mean, I remember earlier I was talking about making him some kind of orc or like a space alien kind of thing. But I'm creating a secondary light source here along his back. It's nothing crazy or new. It's just kind of reflecting the color of his environment. Yeah, this is all one layer, so it's like I totally messed that up. I'm just painting around him. It's not even a big deal, really. Like, yeah, like if you look at that doesn't look totally natural from up close, but this is a bit more impressionistic, I guess. Oh no, I don't want to do that. Yeah, and I love all this. It's not even an object. It's just loose texture where nothing is specified. So it's I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff, and I've just been getting really into it recently. Yeah, this is pretty cool. I'm very pleased with this piece. And I've actually been noticing I really like the work I create with these live streams almost more than some of the stuff I create on my own time. So thank you guys for making that possible. Giving him a bit more definition here. Not even sure what kind of face this is, but it's something. Keep that secondary light source in there. Keep it consistent. Almost looks like he has a brain for a head. I don't know if I want that. We can give him some more color variety just for the heck of it, because color variety is great. There's just some ambient reflected greens from around. It's nothing crazy, nothing we haven't seen before here. Let's flip it, see what I've done wrong here. I think I've just added in a bit, I don't know, I've crowded out some of the nice textural stuff with some of this intense detailing, and that's always a risk, so I might just go back in and lose some of that detail. Just create some more vague stuff going on here. Get rid of that. Yeah, I'm not sure what I did here, but I kind of lost some of that. Some of what I had in the beginning, which is, that's the risk you take with this style. But you just push through and you find out what it is that's not working, and just make a change. I think maybe part of it is this has gotten a bit too bright. Let's see if I can, there we go, select this guy. Give him a bit of a tone down. Yeah, I think that's better. I think I just need to create some bold moves with this. Where'd it go? Yeah. Just need to be a bit more deliberate with my choices. And a bit more loose. Okay, and what are we gonna do with this area here? Let's just give him some kind of weird staff thing. The spear at the end. I don't know. Maybe that's a little weird. Doesn't quite fit the rest of his aesthetic. Let's just try some kind of thing like this. Sure, I don't know. We don't know what it is, but it's there. Has some little traily things on it. Let's use that other light source to help define some of his muscles there. Help define the shapes. It's a bit too much. Oh yeah, I kind of like that. There's something purple behind him. We don't know. We don't know what it is. And I'm not crazy about... Whoops. I just tried to erase that as if it were on a separate layer. So used to working that way. But yeah, I'm just going to dial that back. I don't know. Give him some interesting features. I don't like that. It makes him look like a bug. I'm not sure. I guess he doesn't really have to be too defined. Let's flip it, see how it looks. That's kind of interesting. I like this purple reflected light. I kind of want to keep pushing that. Just makes it look pretty cool. Contrasts with the green very nicely and the yellow right here. It's not even intentional, but all right, let's try some of those highlights while we're kind of wrapping things up here. Just very subtle. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, it makes a world of difference. Just super subtle, sparing, and yeah, this has been pretty neat. So I think the last thing I'm gonna do in these last few minutes here is just let's see. I'm just gonna create some definition around these rocks. Just a little more clarity about what's going on here. It doesn't have, and like this is probably the least important part of this whole painting. So I'm not gonna go crazy here. Just want to make it kind of look a bit more like a three-dimensional surface. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I want to create some color variety over here. It's not just all purple. I'm just gonna totally lose his legs. We don't need him. And I want to have a bit more detail around here. Just because it's so close to the character, it'll be a bit obvious if his surrounding environment is sort of painted loosely in. But because it's not the character itself, again, I don't really have to do much here. I think I don't want to have the highlight reach this point actually. And that's just a choice I can make. It's my painting. All right, let's bring out that drawing brush. Just create some lines in here. Make it look a bit more intentional. I don't know about all this, but oh, here's a trick. Let's use this. Let's use a big soft round here. This will just create a little separation. Help to break up that texture a bit. Let's do the same thing here. It's a good way of separating out planes. Let's flip it. Give this bit of edge. Oops, I did not mean to save. Probably should have saved a while ago, but I did not. So here we are. I'm going to give this some, give this a bit more reflected ceiling light, because that's what I'm feeling here for this section here. It's very subtle things. Let's do one more right here. That's pretty dang cool. You may be wondering, is that how you're actually going to leave this area? And yes, the answer is yes. If I wanted to spend a bit more time on it, maybe I would. I'm actually going to get rid of this because it kind of looks like he's really short. I want to leave. I'm leaving this deliberately undefined because. Let's get rid of that too. Kind of make it look like there's a ledge in front of this actually. So maybe I take that back. I'm addressing it a little bit here. I'm just sort of covering it up. It's just because I'm lazy. And I'm going to create a little edge variation right here, so it looks a bit synthetic. Little detail. And last touch here, just use that smoothing brush to just make some variation here. Create a bit of realism amongst the chaotic texture. Not too much though. Yeah, I want this can all just get blended to hell. This doesn't need to exist. I don't know why. It's just like not important, so I'm gonna get rid of it. Maybe not. I don't know. It kind of looks like he's half immersed in a. I just need to give this guy a bit more shape here, and then sort of cut him off down here. Yeah, maybe I'll get a bit more specific with this hip. Yeah, maybe that anatomy's paying off just a little bit here. Or the figure drawing, that is. Maybe. He's got a nice butt. I gave him a butt. He's kind of naked, isn't he? And I think I just want to tone that down just a little bit. It's a bit, I don't want all my highlights to be even, so I'm just gonna cut these ones down. Keep it focused on the back. This pose looks a bit awkward. There, that balances them out a little bit. And after I do some quick detailing here, I'm gonna call this one done. What else? What are some finishing touches I can apply here? Let's check out some lighting effects, perhaps. We'll see if I can get a little wild with the linear dodge again. May not be necessary really, but sometimes it looks cool in certain areas. Yeah, that'll help him pop out a little bit. Not too much. And then yeah, around here we've already done it quite a bit, but what the heck, let's go wild. Really get some light going here. Oh yeah. That's intense. All right, I think that's gonna be it. Total time about 2 hours, actually pretty much 2 hours on the dot. Yeah, let me just since it's all one layer here, just pop my name on the bottom. Let's do something a little. There it is. All right, that'll conclude it for tonight. Thank you guys for joining me. And again, if you missed this, you can see the full video on my Facebook page or on YouTube. You can watch it anytime, and this will all be there for you. Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight, and